Wow. This is one of the article in the book of Ielts of Barrons. And this article is bird migration. So let's get to each paragraph of this article. Let's go to the very first paragraph today, bird migration. Here, when it comes to the word migration, we will think of another word, which is immigration. And what is the difference between migration and immigration? First, whenever you see the end, which is shun is a signal for you to know, oh, this is a noun in English. This is not an adjective. This is not an action verb. This is not an adverb in English. So migration, immigration, shun at the end is a signal for you to recognize it as a noun in English. Migration. Migration is a movement of animals or reptiles or insects from places to places. Or migration is also movement of groups of people. When people need to move from this place to another place, we can call them, okay, the migration of Asian people from the north of Vietnam to the south of Vietnam. But when it comes to the word immigration, it means that you will leave this place forever and you will go to another place for living. So when you want to emphasize the part that you want to live this place forever, you are going to use the word immigration. So here, the difference between migration and immigration, when it is related to people. When you want to say that, oh, I don't want to live in this place. I want to leave this place forever. I want to move to another place for living. It means immigration. So when it comes to the word immigration, it's much more about leaving the country and to live in another country. That is the word immigration. Migration, immigration, we have the verb of it, that is migrate or immigrate. Migrate, just look at this this article. It is about the birds. Because the birds migrate from the south of Vietnam to the north of Vietnam because of the weather, or people in the south of Vietnam immigrate to America for some reasons. Immigrate into a country, migrate into a place. So when you want to say that you don't want to live in this place anymore, you want to leave this place to move to another place forever, you are going to use the word immigrate. Let's go back to this paragraph. Migration is the regular movement of animals between the breeding grounds and the areas that they inhabit during the rest of the year. The first sentence, migration is the regular movement of animals between the breeding grounds and the areas that they inhabit during the rest of the year. First, okay, a regular movement, regular movement. The word regular, when you use the word regular, it is about something very usual. It means it happens in your life from time to time. Like usually, I usually listen to music. I listen to music like every 3 days in a week or every 4 days in a week. So here, when it comes to regular, you think of usually or regular movement. It means usual movement, the kind of movement that happens, okay, from time to time. That is regular movement of animals between the breeding grounds. Crowd. The first meaning of the crowd, that is, okay, the place, the surface where you put your feet on in order for you to stand, or the surface where you sit on in order for you to relax. So it is about the floor. They are going to use the word the crowd. And the second meaning of the other word, the crowd, that is reason. Like, give me some reason, give me some crowds for me to trust, in order for me to move ahead. So the word crowd here, it is much more about the word reason. Here, breeding crowds, you can think of the breeding reasons or the breeding seasons. It depends on the context of the sentence in order for you to get the right comprehension. The areas that they inhabit, inhabit. when an animal inhabits a place, it means when an animal chooses this place for living. Inhabit is the word for you to use for animals or for you to use for ancient people. Ancient people inhabit Vietnam, or Chinese people inhabit some parts of Vietnam. That is the word for you to use when you want to talk about the past when it comes to people. But when it comes to animals, you can use the word inhabit, like animals inhabit the terrace of my house. The bees inhabit the trees which are in the garden of my house. That is the word inhabit. Inhabit is used for animals, but for ancient people, you can use it, or you can use another word that is shelter. Shelter. But how do you use the word shelter? You can say that I shelter myself, or I shelter somebody in some places. I shelter myself in a room like this. Outside the weather is raining, so I decide to shelter myself in a room in order to keep myself warm, and I can have a good mood for studying. All right. The areas they inhabit, the areas that they choose to live in. They here stands for birds. They are talking about birds. They are talking about the process of birds moving from places to places. That process is bird migration during the rest of the year, or during the remaining of the year. So let's look back at this sentence. Migration is the regular movement of animals between their breeding grounds and the areas that they inhabit during the rest of the year. Don't pay attention to the time, period here during the rest of the year. Don't pay attention to this phrase. Just pay attention to migration is what? Migration is between their breeding grounds and the areas that they inhabit. It means migration, bird migration only occurs between the breeding seasons, the baby making seasons, and the areas that they choose to live in order to give birth to their babies. That is the meaning of this sentence. Here they use the word breed. When when an animal breeds, when an animal gives birth to other animals, or when an animal bear other animals. Bear here is not like a bear. Bear here is an action verb. It means that person or that animal breeds, or give birth to other ones. When it comes to animals, reptiles, or any kinds of creatures on this planet, you are going to use the word breed, or give birth to, or bear. But when it comes to people, we can only use the word give birth to or bear. We don't use breed for people. All right. Many types of animals migrate. The bird, many types of animal migrate. The bird migration in particular has fascinated observers for centuries. Many types of animals migrate. Many kinds of animals move from places to places. Many categories of animals move from places to places. But bird migration in particular, it means among many types of animals, I choose birds to talk about this topic, The topic here is the bird migration. But bird migration in particular has fascinated, has interested, has excited the observers, the people watching the bird migration process. Here we have the word fascinate. When you fascinate someone, it means you interest, you interest someone, or you excite someone. Here we have three action verbs. I try to fascinate you by the way that I speak English. I try to fascinate you by the way that I deliver my lecture. Or I interest you by the tone of my English, or by the intonation of my speaking. So here, when you excite someone, you can use the subject, you can use interest, or excite, or fascinate, fascinate someone, an object here. It means you are gonna make them. You are gonna make someone interested, fascinated, or excited. Interested, fascinated, excited here are not verb ed, are not the past verbs. Excited, fascinated, interested, okay, here are the adjs, the adjectives for you to use to describe people. So we have like fascinated or interested, okay, or excited. These are the adjectives for you to use for people. Observers. Who are observers? If you observe someone, it means you watch them doing something. When you watch somebody, you are going to be called an observer. And the way that you watch other people doing something, the way that you observe other people is called observation. Observation. So whenever it comes to a noun in English, it is about the name of the process. The observation. My observation is going to help me to recognize the mistakes of myself or to recognize the way that the students feel about me. So that is observation. When I observe my students, it means I will listen to my students' audio. I will watch my students' videos in order for me to feel more about my students' English so that I can decide which way is the best way to help my students. That is why I choose to observe my students. And the way that I observe is called observation. My observation is efficient and effective if my observation helps me to recognize something different about my students or about myself. My observation is not going to be perfect if I don't trust what I see, okay, from my students. So here, when you use the word observation, it means the process of you watching something. You just want to say that, oh, my process of watching you, okay, is not good because the process of me watching you makes you feel angry and uncomfortable. So that is the word observation. Here, many types of animals migrate. Many types of animals move from places to places. They don't live in one place permanently. They live in places temporarily because they're going to change places due to bad weather or due to the impact of human beings. But bird migration in particular has fascinated observers for centuries. But bird migration, specifically speaking, we are talking about bird migration. Particularly speaking, we are talking about bird migration. So that is why they use the word in particular here. Here we have the structure here. We can say that you do something in general, and then something else happens in particular. This is the way that you use. All right, you can say that. I can say that today I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about daily life issues in general, but I'm gonna share with you a lot about my life in particular. So you are going to do something in general. The big topic is the general topic, and you are going to jump to the particular topic in order to help the listeners or people who are listening to you or people who are reading you for the box understand more about you. So you are going to do something in general, and you're going to go into details of your thing in particular. That is the meaning of this sentence. The general part of the sentence, that is many types of animals. And the particular part here, they are going to talk about the bird migration. They are going to talk about the bird movements. Migration is an excellent example of how nature has responded to the biological imperative for species to evolve and spread out into all possible ecological niches that can provide the conditions necessary for species to breed and raise young. Wow, such a very long sentence. But we are gonna separate the sentences based on the structures of the sentence. Whenever you look at the long sentence, ask yourself how many sentences are there in this long sentence. So let's separate these sentences into parts. The first part, migration, is an excellent example of how nature has responded to the biological imperative for species to evolve All right. So this is the first part of the sentence. The first part and the second part of the sentence connect to each other based on the word and. So before and is the first part, and after and is the second. The first part, migration to evolve, and the second part that is spread out into all, okay, and raise young. So let's get in detail of analysis for the very first part. Migration is an excellent example. Like you use the word example, it's not like you were given examples of grammar or of words that you need to study, but an example here is like a good example for you to look up to. For example, for instance, your father is such a good man, and you respect him, you love him so much, you adore him a lot, and you can say that my father is a good example for a grown-up man. I look up to my father. I look up to this example because I'm gonna be married, okay, to a man like my father. So when you use the word example, it's like a person, okay, who you adore a lot, who you admire a lot, and that person brings up a very good image for you, okay, to try for you to try best in your ability to become that person. So that is the example. Migration is an excellent example. Migration here, they are not talking about an example that you adore, an example that you admire. They are talking about an example as an instance. All right. Here we use the word instance. Example here is not like an image for you to look up to. Look up to it means that you are gonna respect that person, you are gonna admire that person, and you are gonna learn from that person. That is what look up to. So when you use the word example, it has two meanings. The first meaning, that is an image, and the second meaning of the word example, that is instance. For instance, something is gonna happen, or for example, something is gonna happen. So I'm gonna give you my situation like this. I like so many things. For example, I like going out with my friends. I like watching TVs. I like watching movies on Netflix. I like chatting with different people on social media, on social networks. So that is for example. And my other situation for the example is an image. I look up to my parents. Okay, my parents are such the best and the excellent examples of successful people for me. So whenever I feel sad, I just think of my father as a shining star example. Whenever I feel disappointed, I just look up to my mother, because for me she is an exceptional woman, and I always think of her as the best woman image for me to respect, for me to learn from her. So that is what example as an idol, as an ideal person for you to look up to. So when it comes to this word example, you can think of the word idol, you can think of the word ideal person. Yeah. Migration is an excellent example. Migration is an excellent situation. It's an excellent case of how nature has responded to the biological imperative. Respond to. First meaning. Respond to. When you respond to somebody, that means you answer. You answer that person. You reply. You reply that person. Answer. I try to answer your question. I reply to your question. I respond to your question. The second meaning of the word respond to, you can use the word respond to as react. How do you react to different situations in your life that I respond to? I face many kinds of students, and I have different ways to respond to my students. So the way that you respond to them, it means the way that you react to those kind of students. If that student says something bad to you, how are you going to answer that question? If that student does something bad to you, how do you solve that problem? caused by that student. So the second meaning of the word respond to, it means react to. How nature has reacted to the biological imperative. Biological imperative, you can only think of something like the mother nature, the mother of nature. Respond to the mother of nature. The respond to the mother of nature situation. Here we have the word biological imperative, okay? Or you can think of mother of nature situation. It's like this is the way that I am born. I live, okay, instinctively. So when you live instinctively, it means that you live by your nature, live by your nature. Just like birds, birds are born like this. So they are going to live by their nature. They don't live like a program. It's just like you create a program and people study by the program. That is not that. So when you use the word biological imperative, just think of mother of nature. What they want to say that is my creation is the best example of how nature has reacted to the mother of nature. How nature, okay, how nature give birth to, okay, other animals. How nature, okay, how nature happens in this, okay, in this world. That is the meaning of it. Biological imperative for species to evolve. Species to evolve, it means for species to be born, to be given birth to be bred. So here what they want to say is how nature has reacted to the mother of nature, for animals, for reptiles, for insects to be given birth to this world. So what they just want to say is migration. It's just an example of, okay, how nature happens naturally. So that birds are given birth to this world in a natural way and spread out into all possible ecological niches that can provide the condition necessary for species to breed and raise young. So just pay attention to the word ecological niches. Ecological, sorry, here. Ecological niches. Ecological niches. This is a noun in English. Spread out, it means that develop. The birds are gonna develop bigger and bigger, and the birds are gonna give birth to another bird, and the birds are gonna produce all the baby birds. So the birds are gonna increase a lot in numbers. They use the word spread out like this into all possible ecological niches, into lots of places all around the world that can give, okay, the birds the best conditions for the birds to give birth to baby birds, and the birds can take good care of the baby birds. That is the meaning of this sentence. So first, okay, this sentence is going to be complex because of the phrase biological imperative. Think of it like mother of nature. How nature is supposed to be. Just go with the flow. That is the meaning of it. How nature happens. Just think of mother of nature. That is the way it is. That is the way the birds move from places to places in order for it to evolve, in order for it to give birth to other birds. Spread out, it means how the bird move from places to places and how the birds increase in numbers. How big birds give birth to baby birds, and they give birth to lots of birds in different places, in the world. That is why they use the word possible ecological niches of possible world places that can provide the best conditions for the birds to take good care of the baby birds, breed for the birds to give birth to other birds, raise young for the birds to take good care of baby birds. That is the meaning of it. All right, raise young. When you raise young, you can say that I raise my child. It means you take good care of your child, and your child is going to grow up. That is the word raise. Raise. Take good care. of something or somebody, and then you are gonna have them or get somebody or something grow. That is race. All right. This is the first part of the video. I'm gonna give you guys the second part of the video, and after you watch my video, please try to make a response video. I need you to summarize what you have just understood from a video. All right.